You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into Mizzou, That's Who, your podcast for Missouri athletics here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm one of your wonderful co-hosts, Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Gabe DeArmond and Maggie Johnson. We're here to talk Mizzou football. Busy weekend in Mizzou athletics. Mizzou football in action. Mizzou basketball had a game as well. I think Mizzou basketball's played twice since we last talked. Yeah, they played Penn and they played Lindenwood as well, collecting 2 wins. Missouri football did not collect a win. They still need 2 wins if they want to be bowl eligible. They have to win out if they want to be bowl eligible. They lose to Tennessee 66-24. One of my buddies was asking me about this Tennessee and Mizzou game, and I said, if they only played 3 quarters, it would have been a good game. That was my first takeaway.
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 is generous.
I had a friend text me and he said, not a Mizzou fan, but he said, what happened? Like it was 28-24. And then I just ran to the store and what happened? I said, yeah, well, Tennessee happened. I think Hendon Hooker just threw for 4 more touchdowns and Eli Drinkwitz made $27 million since we did the podcast last night.
Yeah, it was really a tale of 2 halves, to be perfectly honest with you. The first half, and this is odd because we don't usually say this, but the offense looked pretty good in the first half. I mean, Brady was running the ball well. I mean, you know, he still made some mistakes, but he kept us within 11 points in the first half. You couldn't say that last year. So, I mean, I think last year we were down 40 in the first half, probably
something like that. Yeah,
I think we scored most of our points at the end of the game last year, as opposed to the beginning of the game. So that was very optimistic to see, I guess. And then you get into the second half, and we knew that they were getting the ball first. We actually ended the second quarter really well because there was kind of a swing there. We held them, like they could have scored at the end of that half. We ended up holding them. We got our field goal to make it 11 points. But it was all downhill from really there.
I thought honestly the field goal kind of was because they got down, they had like a first down at the 8 and then they ran the ball, got to like the 6 or something like that. And then they just kind of messed around and wasted 10 seconds and had to kick the field goal. And look, we can get into this because you're not beating that team scoring 3. You're certainly not beating that team punting on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 all day long, which was really weird to me. But they got down there, and I know what the explanation was. He said they didn't get over the ball and spike it as quickly as they were supposed to. And that's fine, but the play there is, okay, you run the ball, you call your timeout with 16 seconds left, and you leave your offense 2 plays to throw into the end zone. Well, the problem is he just doesn't trust that offense to not screw it up. I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but watching that sequence of plays was clear. I don't trust my offensive line to not give up a sack, and I don't trust my quarterback to not throw it to the other team. So I'm playing for 3 points here. That's what it looked like to me. But they still got within 28-24 after that. I mean, I'll give them this. I proclaimed that game over privately 3 times before Tennessee actually ended it.
I think I didn't, but people were texting me it's over when it was 7-0 because they scored so easily. And now, mind you that, and the CBS announcers, which we'll get into in a little bit, but even at that point, they were saying stuff about how Mizzou's not equipped to play from behind and things like that, which is a little silly because we've come behind in multiple games. I mean, we still lost them, but we've come from behind in multiple games. So for it to be a game in the third quarter, I would have said, this is all I can ask for. And then I would have asked for a lot of things other than giving up 34 unanswered points or whatever.
38 straight is not great. I mean, it's also it's also worth the discussion of, yeah, cool. Let's just, I'd take it being a game going into the fourth quarter. I mean, I get it. And you're not wrong. Look, I picked Missouri to lose this game by 4 touchdowns. So they didn't do any worse than I expected. But I think the frustrating part for Missouri fans is, I mean, this was a program, they were 5-2 against Tennessee their first 7 years in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And Tennessee hasn't just passed them. I mean, they can't even see Tennessee from where they're at. And I think that's the frustrating part. You shouldn't freak out about this game individually because, yeah, you were a 3-touchdown underdog and you knew you were going to lose. But it's okay to be frustrated that you were a 3-touchdown underdog and you walk away going, hey, we played them well for 2.5 quarters and I feel okay about that, you know?
Yeah, that's not a spot as a program that you should be in. Tennessee, they're going to be vying for a college football playoff spot. That's going to be something. And when we were talking about this game, a lot of the big part was they're number 5 right now. College football playoff rankings will come out on Tuesday. They're number 5 in the AP poll, but they're sitting around that spot. So they have to beat teams badly. Like if they had to beat Mizzou bad. So I am not surprised by this result at all because I know like when people were texting me like, hey, do I take Missouri plus 20? And I say, no, don't take Missouri plus 20 because Tennessee has to beat Missouri bad for them to look good in the college football playoff rankings, for them to even consider going up to number 4, which I don't know if beating Missouri 66-24 is going to make the college football playoff committee go, you know what? This team is the real deal. But yeah, I think that is, it's like one of those things where, yeah, it was fun to be in that game. 28-24, that was fun. And then you forget to cover Jalen Hyatt, probably the best wide receiver in the country. And he just walks wide open for a touchdown. There's nobody within 45 yards of him. Insane. Like that happened. And
that also happened. Though, like we need to start talking about Josh Heupel the way people talk about Lane Kiffin, or the way people talk about, like, that was a beautiful play, man. He lined him up as an H-back, and Missouri didn't know where he was.
Right.
And he was just all by himself. And look, for whatever faults he may have, Josh Heupel is an elite offensive football coach. And you saw it, even when that game was 28-24, you were kind of going, man, everything's so hard for Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're only really getting this because your quarterback is running all over the field. And then you give the ball back to them and you're like, oh my God, that guy's open by 22 yards. And that if he hadn't thrown to him, that other guy's open by 19 yards. And I know Tennessee has better players, but that was also scheme. And this is like this Tennessee team, they were 7-6 last year. They've been bad for a long time. He has not gotten a million new 5-stars in that program. A lot of what they're doing is about his system.
Well, I mean, we scored a lot of points when he was at Mizzou. Yeah. I mean, we couldn't really stop anybody, but we could score a lot of points.
But like that wasn't his fault, right? I think he got blamed for that when he was here, and that's not fair. He's the offensive coordinator.
No, it wasn't his fault at all. I will say, yes, Tennessee, based on name alone and based on history and stature and whatever alone, Tennessee's likely always going to get better Kurtz than Mizzou. So you bring in a good offensive coach, and it's like a perfect storm, regardless of how they have been the past few years. But Tennessee also has a lot of older, experienced players on that team. Like he's not playing these new freshmen. Sure. I mean, there might be a couple on the field, but the majority of their players, like Hendon Hooker, he's 24, isn't he?
Yeah. Dude's older than I am. Yeah.
Like there's a lot of experience there on top of a good offensive coach. I mean, yeah, like you said, there's no way Mizzou was winning that game.
I was just looking at the stats. He is older than me, by the way, by 6 months. I said that as a joke, but he actually is.
Are you still in college, Tucker?
I'm not still in college.
Okay.
I've been out of college for 3 years. So like it's been a minute since I've been in college. What I was looking at the stats wise is Hendon Hooker 355 passing yards, just passing yards. Missouri's offense total yards was 389. So Hendon Hooker himself through the air, this isn't even on the ground because I know he had a couple big runs, through the air almost outgained Missouri as a whole. And I do think that, Gabe, to your point, a lot of it does have to do with coaching. They've got dudes, right? There were some times when Missouri was running plays and I was watching, the Tennessee offense go to work, and I was watching the Mizzou defense. Mizzou's got some dudes on their defense.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some times where I was like, man, they just got more dudes. And especially, I think the Luther Burden play, when I saw him turn the corner, and I was like, okay, he can hang. Like this freshman can turn a corner against an SEC defense. That's good to see. Mizzou doesn't have a lot of dudes that can hang at that national championship level, the college football playoff level. It's going to be hard for them to do that regardless, right? For recruiting and stuff like that. But I mean, they are good. Tennessee's a good football team. They're obviously competing for the national title. It might help them not being in that SEC championship game, right? If Georgia does lose, they can kind of sneak their way in there. College Football Playoff Committee probably did do them a favor by putting them at number 5 if they are sitting on that last spot out, and somebody, maybe TCU loses in the Big 12 championship, Georgia loses in the Big 12 championship.
Either Michigan or Ohio State has to lose. So
Michigan or Ohio State are going to lose. They did them a favor by putting them at 5. I think. So I think Tennessee's going to find their way into the college football playoff. You probably didn't download this podcast thinking you were going to get an in-depth college football playoff rankings breakdown, but here we are. I just think that game as a whole, I didn't come away from that game happy or just like, oh man, good game. I was just like, man, it stinks that, we talked about at the beginning of the season, we don't want a lot of Tennessee games like there was last year, right? We talked about Tennessee hanging like 40 points in 40 seconds or something like that. Hyperbole, but they scored 66. Like, they scored more points this year on a better defense. Now, that probably says a little bit more about Tennessee this year, probably. But
it's never good for a game to get compared to games that have nicknames like derogatory nicknames.
Right.
The last time Missouri gave up 66 points was Kansas State in 1999, beat them 66-0. I learned this weekend that was called the Riley County Rout. That was the game where Larry Smith's wife was supposedly down on the sidelines, kind of yelling at players and stuff like that. And then the only time in school history Missouri has surrendered more yards than it did on Saturday was in 1986 to Oklahoma. They lost 77-0, which was thereafter known as the Norman Conquest in Missouri history. So you don't want to have a nickname game. The nickname games are not good for Missouri, other than like the Mo Miracle turned out well. But other than that, largely not good.
Well, so let's talk about it though. Let's talk about the amount of points that were scored.
Many.
Do we think do we think that the last 14 points should have been scored?
I have no issue with it. I have no issue with it at all. I mean, that's their backup quarterback. Like, I had a problem. Like, when Missouri beat Delaware State 79-0, I mean, that's not a program on your level. That's an FCS team, and a bad one at that. Missouri is in the SEC. They have all the same rules and advantages, disadvantages, whatever that Tennessee has. You are on the same playing field. I grew up watching Nebraska and Oklahoma do this to Missouri, and like, it wasn't Tom Osborne's fault that he put his 4th-string fullback in and that dude would get a 60-yard touchdown. Like, be better at football. Feel free to stop them at any time. And 2 other things figure into this. We talked last week about how Eli kind of said some things that were remembered in Knoxville. I think that I don't know if it played a factor with Josh Heupel, but I guarantee some Tennessee people were happy to see it. The other thing is, 8 weeks ago, Eli Drinkwitz called timeout to score a touchdown to get beat 40-12 instead of 40-6. You don't get to play to the buzzer on one side and not play to the buzzer on the other side, right?
But we were down 40 points as opposed to up 40 points.
But like, why does it matter? I mean, what's the difference though?
Yeah, I don't know. So it got to a point where I think it was like under 6 minutes, and they were about to score the first of those 2 touchdowns. And I was like, can we just run the ball? Can we just get this game over with? Like, I mean, we were already going to lose. We were down 30 at that point. I'm like, just run the ball, let the clock go. And then they're air raiding
okay,
the last 5 minutes of the game.
Let me play devil's advocate. If Sam Horn plays this weekend, Missouri's up 35-6 on New Mexico State, and Sam Horn comes into the game, What do you want to see him do? Should he hand the ball off 9 straight times?
I think he should
Or
go.
do you want him to run the offense?
He should go 3 for 3 for 105 yards and a touchdown.
I mean, that's my point, because we're talking about Tennessee is playing for a spot in the college football playoff. What if Hendon Hooker gets hurt on the first series next week? Joe Milton has to play.
But I feel like there's a little bit of a difference between Sam Horn and Joe Milton, because Milton was their starting quarterback last year, wasn't he? I mean, we can't act like Josh Heupel doesn't know what Milton can do. He does. He just knew Hendon Hooker was better.
But he also has to practice doing it. I mean, it's been, I don't know, 2 years since he started a football game. No, he's probably played. I get that people are upset, but I also promise, if that was reversed, I mean, Missouri beat Tennessee 50-17 in two years in a row a few years ago. I promise if Missouri had thrown a touchdown pass up 50-17, not one Missouri fan's mad about it.
No, you're spot on. They absolutely are probably not mad. I mean,
I didn't have it looked like on TV to me, Heupel might have kind of apologized to Eli for it.
Well, I'm sure he did, but I kind of said, I know some Tennessee fans, and I kind of said this, and I'm like, at that point, it's not even worth really apologizing. I think that on both ends. Like, you did it 30 seconds ago. You're not really that sorry that you did it. You just feel like you need to save face. So I'm kind of like, just don't apologize. Just like own up to the fact that you did it. And
maybe apologize was the wrong word. I assume what he was saying there, and I don't know this, but I assume what he was saying was, Eli, like, this thing's going to come down to a vote. And I got to score every point I can in the next 3 weeks. And I'm sorry that you guys happen to be the victim of that. Yeah, so I don't think he's sorry he did it. I think maybe he was explaining why he did it. And you can disagree with that reasoning, but that's what it looked like on TV to me without having any idea what he actually said. He might have leaned in and goes, take that.
Yeah.
What do you think? How you like them apples?
That's for Pruitt's wife or something like that. Which I still don't understand why people are that mad about it. Like, nobody on the current staff the only thing he said about anyone on the current staff is how bad he's beat them. So I don't know. It's silly. I don't really care that they did it either. Like we were talking about before the show, I just thought it was funny that CBS is like, they're not doing this on purpose. And then after they scored it, they were like, I really wish they would have taken a knee there. That was really my only thing. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I tweeted about too. Like, check the timeline. It just is what it is. Tennessee's way better than Mizzou. Tennessee's going to compete for a national championship. What really can you say about it?
I wonder if it would have felt a little bit better if instead of, punching it in from the 1 yard line, if that dude just would have scored. Like, if he stayed up into the end zone. I think it was like a diving catch, though, so it's like nothing he could do. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe be a little different if he scored on that deep play instead of.
I remember a game Pinkel coached too, though, and I don't remember who it was against, but I mean, they were up like Gary never liked to score more than 50 against somebody, but they were up like, 50-9 or something like that. And they got down to the 2 yard line and they took a knee on the 2. And I'm like, I think that's more insulting than just handing it off and scoring. Yeah. That's like saying, we know we could score, but we're not even going to try. That would make me feel far worse than if they just handed the ball off and happened to get in from the 2 yard line.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the game. Yeah, it was a 58-yard pass that he stopped on the 1 yard line.
Really nice pass, by the way. Good throw.
Listen, Joe was slinging that. He looked
cannon,
good.
Man.
He looked good. I was like, hey, can Mizzou recruit him next year?
That's what I told some Tennessee fans. I'm like, hey, I would gladly take your second string quarterback right now. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, props. But I mean, at the same time, you kind of have to be like, okay, what was Missouri's secondary doing most of that game as well? They were lost.
That was a rough day.
They were lost. I mean,
and it was the running game too, right? It was nothing. They weren't stopping anything. Mm-hmm. I think Tennessee averaged 9.7 yards a play. I mean, that's a first down pretty much every time you snap the ball.
I did crunch the numbers. Hendon Hooker did total offense outgain the Missouri total offense himself. Shocker. That dude's going to be in the Heisman contention. But looking at just the total yards, 724 total yards on 30. Or wait, that's first downs. I can't see.
They had 75 plays.
Okay, so do the math at home, kids. report back to us in the comment section.
But
not pretty.
Yeah, you hoped, and part of you, I mean, Tennessee's done that to other people, right? I mean,
100%.
they have put up some ridiculous. I mean, they put up 52 on Bama. You
Right.
know, they put up 40 at LSU. Like, they've put up at least 34 on everybody except Georgia. But you were talking about the blowouts. I mean, they had 4 of them last year, and they've had 2 this year. So it's fewer. You know, it's a step in the right direction. I don't know. Are they better than they were last year? Like, are they a better football team than they were last year?
I think so. I do. I mean,
so.
Watching games last year, I was like, we won't be able to. We couldn't stop a single. I didn't even want to watch the games because I knew that we couldn't stop any team from scoring points. And yes, our offense isn't as good, but at least we keep the games close because we can stop them. So I mean, not this week, obviously.
Right.
I mean, 2.5 quarters this week. But I mean, last year was almost as like miserable to watch. At least people are still interested in watching Mizzou play. Like, there's still a decent attendance at home games, and
they still do have a legit shot to be a bowl eligible team. I know I'd say this every year. They have a legit shot to be a legitimate bowl eligible team, not a 5-7 bowl qualifier like they probably will be. But
and I have good news for you guys. I looked at it this morning. Maggie, you are not going to have to go to the Gasparilla Bowl.
Oh yeah, no, I read Mizzou and I was like,
I went through it. Basically, the SEC sucks this year. Like, there are only going to be 9 or 10 teams that win 6 games in this league because A&M already can't do it, which is I want to do a whole podcast just about how awesome that is. Auburn is almost certainly not going to do it. Either Arkansas or Missouri will not do it, assuming Arkansas loses to Ole Miss. And there's one other team that's not likely to get there. So you're only going to have like 9 or 10 teams, and the SEC has like 12 bowl spots or something like that. So I don't even think it's going to be an SEC team playing in the Gasparilla Bowl.
I'm really shooting for that Music City. Like, give me
hopes for Vegas
City.
Are still alive, by the way.
Listen,
yeah, but we can drive. I can drive to the Music City Bowl.
Yeah, but
and I'd have to fly during the holidays to Vegas. So
Vegas is before Christmas, though. Vegas is like the 18th or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Vegas is early.
The projection I'm looking at here from Sports Illustrated has Oregon State playing Missouri in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Solid.
That's just one.
A rematch of the 2006 Sun Bowl, by the way, which I was at.
It would be a very interesting game because
Oregon State lost. Oregon State scored like 15 points in the last 2.5 minutes and beat Missouri.
Oh no! Yep, that did happen.
That was the one where in post-game interviews, I think. Oh no, maybe it was after the 2007 bowl game that Lorenzo Williams told me he told the team if they didn't win the national title next year, he was going to come burn their houses now. I don't think he did it.
I hope not. Another projection I'm seeing here, Texas Tech versus Missouri in the Pinstripe Bowl.
That would be awful.
I hate
New York in the
Yankee
December.
Stadium.
Yeah.
I hate playing football games on baseball fields. They did it at Globe Life. They do it at Globe Life.
What's Globe Life?
I guess it's not
Texas.
Globe Life anymore, but it's
the Arlington one.
The one in Arlington. I don't know what they call it now.
Okay.
But
I can't think of what it's called either.
They changed the name of it. They're gonna have a XFL team there too. But they played on a field that is meant to play baseball. I don't know how they did this back in the day too, because they had all these multi-purpose stadiums, and it was rare to find a football only stadium. But
didn't the Raiders and the A's play on the same field for years?
I grew up watching the Chiefs play road games at Oakland Coliseum and Jack Murphy and San Diego. It was kind of awesome. I'm sure it sucked to play on, but it was pretty cool. It was like he would be running in left field, and then all of a sudden he was just running on dirt.
It's weird.
When I think about the Pinstripe Bowl, all I think about is Kansas State, and they got that. It was years ago, and they got the salute penalty in the Pinstripe Bowl, and I do not know why I remember that, but they got like a 15-yard penalty for like saluting or something, and I don't know if it really did anything.
It's always like snowing, and you always play somebody awful, and That would be what a depressing way to spend a day. I hope that doesn't happen.
As long as it's not the Lockheed
Me too.
Martin
Me too, Gabe.
I saw there was one bowl projection. I think this was last week of Missouri playing Kansas in the Liberty Bowl. That would be a fun one. I don't know if that'll happen. Listen though, they might.
If Missouri gets to 6-6, I think there's a decent chance they get Kansas because these bowl people aren't stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about making money, and they know that Kansas and Missouri fans will go.
Yeah, especially if it's in like Memphis, like the Liberty Bowl would be.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that would be absolute money.
I think that's December 28th. I think I was looking or something like that. So,
yeah. Well, we have plenty of weeks to talk about bowl projections. They have to take care of business.
Only 2.
They have to win out if they want to get a good bowl. I say that tongue in cheek, but they have to win out to be truly bowl eligible at 6-6. Big game this week against New Mexico State, independent team that has struggled this season to say the least. Missouri should handle this New Mexico State team. I hope it's not an Abilene Christian repeat. I hope it's more of a Louisiana Tech repeat, per se. When you're talking about non-conference, really hope it's not Kansas State.
really hope it's not Kansas State. I mean, if we're getting beat that bad by New Mexico State, we have a lot of issues.
You should probably just cancel the program at that point. You should probably, you should probably sell the team. I don't know, do something.
Just blow up Thoreau that next Saturday night.
Oh my God.
Just put in a swimming pool.
New Mexico State is the state champions of New Mexico, though, because they beat New Mexico earlier this year. So
New Mexico also stinks. There's not good football going on in New Mexico. Right
shocking. Now. It seems like they would have a really good natural recruiting base, but
that's right. They beat Lamar 51-14 last weekend. They barely beat UMass, which UMass is a team that has historically not been very good. They've got Liberty still on their schedule, who
they beat Hawaii.
Hawaii was a dumpster fire this offseason. that program.
Man, you beat them by 50, so
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, they haven't had the best of seasons. Missouri should handle them.
This game is a failure if we don't see a lot of freshmen on the field.
I would agree with that.
And I'm not just talking about the quarterback. Like, Jamarion Wayne has to play in this game, and Tavoris Jones has to play in this game. And a lot of these guys that we've talked about, you've got to see them on Saturday.
I'm kind of bummed I can't go because I have another fall wedding. Last wedding of the year. But I want to be there for that because I want to see if they get that type of actual, support from the fan base that the fan base has been talking about for so long. I don't know. Like, will the student section lose their minds? Most likely.
I'll go to the wedding if you want to write our story.
Trade places.
I mean, if you really want to be there, we could work something out.
I'll be at Arkansas.
I also don't really want to go to your wedding, but
yeah, I mean, don't fault you.
I would RSVP with last minute COVID if I was supposed to go to the wedding in your place.
So I'm looking at some of the scores from this New Mexico team. They got beat by Minnesota 38-0. Minnesota team that started off hot, hasn't really been anything. That Big Ten, what is it? West is weird. I'm sorry, I'm directionally challenged. That Big Ten West is bad. It's bad. It's right up there with the SEC East is bad.
Oh no, the SEC East is not that bad this year.
The SEC East might be better than
the SEC East might get 2 teams in the college football playoff.
Right, but outside of those 2 teams,
but
you're looking at
like Missouri and South Carolina might be in the mix to win the Big Ten West. Iowa controls the Big Ten West. Iowa. They had the worst offense in college football. Like everybody's writing about Kirk Ferentz's nepotism. And if they win 2 games, they win the division. To put those two divisions in the same sentence is very unfair to the SEC East.
Fine. But speaking of another team in the Big Ten West, Wisconsin beat them 66-7. and that team stinks.
Oh, Wisconsin's awful.
Yeah, Wisconsin's bad. So listen, if Missouri doesn't win, we're gonna have problems. This podcast is gonna go up in flames. Who knows if we ever do a podcast episode again?
I actually disagree. I think if they lose this weekend, next weekend would be the best and the most listened to episode we will have.
We would have to do call-in. We'd have to do call-ins. Like, there's no way you could not do a call-in episode after that because people would.
That would be a lot of FCC violations on that show.
Most
it's just the internet, though. Nobody really cares.
Yep. All right.
So here's our question, though. I got to ask, though.
Go ahead.
Do we think that we can beat Arkansas in that game?
I mean, they can. Arkansas is not great, but I did just see KJ Jefferson is expected to play this weekend against Ole Miss. He did not play last weekend.
Right.
And they played pretty well. I mean, their defense played well.
Right, defense played well. It's not like an unwinnable game. Arkansas is going to come in here 5-6. Like I think I said today, one of those teams is going to one of those good bowls, and one of those teams is hoping for the APR exception.
Is it the last game we ever see Brady Cook play quarterback for Mizzou?
Ooh. Yeah.
Well, I mean, bowl game. He'll start a bowl game, right?
Well, what if he transfers?
He won't. I doubt he transfers before. Because Bazelak waited, right?
Bazelak waited, but the transfer thing was different last year. I mean, the transfer portal does open on December 5th. And if you want a spot, a lot of guys might be saying, I will be interested to see, though, if Missouri gets to a bowl game, and I'm not even talking about Brady, I'll be interested to see, because I think the big story this week with this football team, and this is kind of what I was talking about this morning, is how many of these defensive guys are back next year. Because I think everybody's just saying, well, we fixed the defense, so now next year just got to fix the offense. But this defense has a chance to look way different next year. So I'm interested to see in a bowl game, like, is Darius Robinson playing? Is J.C. Carlisle playing? Right. Are some of these guys playing? You know, because that'll be pretty indicative, I think, of – because if you're coming back next year, you're going to play the bowl game. You know, so I think that might be kind of our first idea of, okay, well, here's what this team's going to look like next year. Defense.
It's going to be interesting to see, too, if Drinkwitz talks like, you know, like a Tyron Hopper out of plan for his future, right, or Isaiah McGuire, maybe, if you're going to go to the draft. Hey, don't play in this bowl game. That could be very interesting to see. At this point, I don't think Eli Drinkwitz should be doing that. He needs to win a couple bowl games. He needs to. He should certainly. Success.
It should not be his idea this time around. I mean, yes, if Isaiah McGuire comes to you and says, "Yo, coach, I'm not going to play this game," hey, that's
for
fine.
Sure. He should not go to.
Yeah, you do not go to your best players and say, "Yeah, right, we're good."
I was with that. I kind of convinced myself that was okay, but the more I think about it, I'm just like, that was dumb. Missouri could have.
We lost to Army in a bowl game. It was terrible. It was terrible.
Arguably the most patriotic thing we could have done. I'll say that to let.
I mean, it was the Armed Forces Bowl. I feel like Army, like it would have been kind of mean to beat them.
It was an uphill battle to begin with. There was no win. It was a no-win situation for Mizzou. I understand. I get it. I've already talked myself into all of that happening from last year. But like the more I think about like the whole Tyler Beatty thing, I'm just like, wow. That's not good.
Yeah. I didn't like it.
No. What are you going to do? Missouri takes on, this is a night game, a rare night game for Mizzou. They get New Mexico State. They put them under the lights.
Awful. Like, what the hell?
What are we doing?
I'm fine with staying at Furrow Field until 1 a.m. to cover Georgia. I mean, there's going to be a quality column coming out of this game at 11:30 Saturday night. I can promise you that. I'll put that one in for some awards.
You get to sleep in though.
Yeah, fair. You do. I know a lot of fans do love the 6 a.m. kickoffs. Get your 360 vodka out there. What did I say?
You said 6 a.m. That's when they would play if it was up to me,
buddy.
I would love 6 a.m. games. That'd be great.
That's because you don't tailgate.
Correct. And I'm up early.
I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. to tailgate.
Being done by lunchtime, that'd be amazing.
They really should, though, put this game on at 6 a.m. Just thinking about it now. That was a Freudian slip, definitely. They should definitely. I was like, oh, yeah. I'm trying to figure out what channel it's going to be on. ESPN.
It's on ESPNU.
Ah.
Also,
They didn't even put it on SEC Network Plus. Wild. I really wish it would have been on SEC Network Plus. 28-point favorite Missouri is. I don't think they cover.
Really?
Also, I don't think so. I'm scarred. 28's a lot of points.
I think they cover. I mean, if Wisconsin scored 66,
yeah,
I think they cover.
That's before they fired their coach, though.
Yeah.
Maggie thought.
I mean, they still had the same players, though, right?
That's fair.
So we didn't make picks last week, which I think is just because we all knew we were going to lose and lose by a good amount. But I am like in a league pick 'em, and I did pick Mizzou to cover last week. So I'm just going to say we're not going to cover this week. And then, but I mean, I won't have to pick against them because it's only ranked teams. So, just for the podcast.
There you go.
But I did believe Mizzou would hold them because, I mean, we've held, lots of teams in a cover situation.
That's true.
And it was going great. It was going great. My choice was looking real good.
You should have just turned it off and crashed a wedding and said, I don't know. I assume we just got beat 28-24.
Yeah, well, I was a wedding on Friday night, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I know, guys. It's terrible. It's terrible.
So many weddings.
7. I've had 7 this year, so this one will be number 7.
I don't even know 7 people.
I definitely don't know 7 people who ever invited me to their wedding. I'm not sure I've been to 7 weddings in my whole life, including my own.
No, that's because you get COVID all the time.
Right.
That immune.
So I hear.
It's because people know I'm just gonna make up some reason I can't go anyway.
Can't wait till I get married, and I will invite you both to my wedding.
Did you see? I got COVID that week. Did you see Missouri basketball covered last night?
I did see that.
Ben Sternberg's 3-pointer from half court.
Did you see the video? There was a video of some Lindenwood fans that were there, and
oh no,
I might have to send it to you. And so they scored. Lindenwood scored right before the end of the game to make it so Lindenwood covered. Right. And then Sternberg went down there and hit it. And I mean, all the Lindenwood fans were like, no, because it made them not cover.
As I said on our message board, if you had money on Mizzou Lindenwood on Sunday night, I feel zero bad for you losing your money. Like, that's a legit 1-900 number issue.
1-800 bets off.
That shot was great. That shot was crazy though, because it looked like, and I mean, I guess we're going back to, what we were talking about, I guess, with Tennessee and are they running up the score? He set his feet just like he was shooting a practice 3. I mean, it didn't look like it was a game time 3. He didn't like chuck it. I mean, he knew this time was coming out and he just put up a shot, and I don't think anybody thought that was going in. So that was crazy.
It was
a good opportunity.
I would say that was the best moment of the Mizzou sports weekend, right? That 3.
Has to be.
There were a lot of dunks in last night's game too, and Aiden Shaw had a one-handed slam that, I mean, I think I felt it over here in St. Louis. It was crazy.
I did promise, speaking of Ben Sternberg, at the exhibition game against WashU, I promised somebody else on Press Row, if Ben Sternberg dunks in a game this year, I'm writing my entire column on Ben Sternberg's dunk after that game. So I was thankful that he didn't last night because I didn't want to have to write a column.
It's going to be, his dunk's going to be in like a game that actually means something. So you're like, you have to spend your time talking about it.
I mean, I don't say this disparagingly of young Mr. Sternberg. I'm not sure he's going to be in position to dunk in a game that means something. I mean, also, I have studied him closely in layup lines. And as someone who, trust me, is not and never has been capable of dunking, I do not believe Ben Sternberg can dunk.
Yeah, I think it's something that you can tell pretty early on. But we'll talk some Mizzou hoops here to kind of round out the show. Played twice since we last recorded, as I mentioned at the top of the show. Beat Penn 92-85, beat Lindenwood 82-53. I don't think either of those results were a big shock. Penn made that game close the whole way.
I think they made 15 threes also,
Something
the
like
same
that,
as the game before, which I was very glad that yesterday we only held them to 5 threes, because I told someone on Twitter that I would pay all of my Twitter followers $100 if we let teams score. No, I said if we let teams hit 15 threes for every single game this year.
Oh, every game. Okay, I thought you were just going to say for Lindenwood.
No, for every game. So I got a little nervous when the Penn one happened, because I was like, shoot, because it was like 2 back-to-back.
How much?
Okay, we're good.
How much money would that have cost you?
A lot.
I'd
be very broke.
I admittedly didn't watch Lindenwood, Missouri. Hand up, Zad. If that makes me a bad fan, call me a bad fan on Twitter. It was after a Chiefs game, 5 p.m. tip off on a Sunday. Not gonna do that. Sorry about it. But I didn't watch that game. I watched a little bit of the Penn game. Again, we talked about this before the game. You gotta have SEC Network Plus. And then you got to pay probably something else on top of that to watch these basketball games that are happening. So
it's like $9.99 a month.
Yeah, it's not.
So just get it for these first few games and then cancel your subscription.
There you go. You just need it until December
10th. Everything after that is a real game.
Yep. There you go. After December 10th, Missouri should be heading into that game 3, 4, 5, 6.
It could be 9-0.
9-0. That's what I'm saying. They should.
Yeah.
Which, how many wins did we have last year?
12.
Okay. Let's go.
That'd be big. I've kind of blacked Missouri's. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't remember a lot of Missouri basketball last year. Probably a good thing, but
I could summarize it for you. I use the term point guard loosely. Would dribble the ball to midcourt, turn his back to the basket, stop dribbling. Generally, the other team would then get the ball and score, and they didn't win very often.
No,
and it wasn't very fun to watch.
The games that I think of are UMKC, and then almost beating Auburn. Almost beating Auburn. That's my other one. And then when the freaking student section started cheering overrated at Auburn after we had just lost, and I'm like, no, you don't do that. You never. No, if they beat you, don't cheer overrated at them, please. If any of you are listening, don't do it.
Here's the best thing Missouri has done this year is tell students that to get priority tickets to the Kansas game, they have to go to the previous games. Like, that student section has been full for all 3 games. And it makes a huge difference in the arena. Because like, they're loud and they're into it. And they want to like this team and this coach and get to know the players. And they are fun to watch. I mean, they've scored 97, 92 and 82 points. Like, they're fun to watch. I don't know how good they are, but they're entertaining.
It is hard to take a whole lot from these first, 9 games, because they are playing teams that are, SIUE and Mississippi Valley State and, Houston Christian. So it's like they're playing teams that you can't take a whole lot from.
Yeah. Most famous Mississippi Valley State alum. Anybody know? Tucker, I feel like you should know this.
I know it. Is it oh my gosh. You're gonna say it and I'm gonna be so embarrassed. It's Jerry Rice, isn't it?
It's Jerry Rice, yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yes. I believe the Delta Dogs or Delta Devils or something like that.
Delta Devils, yes, they are. Yeah. Kind of sick, kind of a cool name. I'm with that, but they play Coastal Carolina. That should be a good one. I don't know how good their program is, but at Wichita State, November 29th is probably the first game where you can take anything away when we start looking at the schedule. But okay, we can kind of see how this basketball team is. Then obviously December 10th against Kansas, big one. That'll be a big matchup. As Kansas plays Duke, I believe, is it tonight when we're recording this podcast, or tomorrow, or
it's this week.
It's this week. This is another bone I have to pick. They are so consistent when it comes to like conference schedules, right? Of like Tuesday, Saturday. Non-conference schedules, not consistent at all whenever they play. They just play whenever they want in the middle of the week. That's wild to me. Like, let's play at 5 p.m. on a Sunday.
Right.
Like, there's stuff like that. It's just like, I don't understand.
I would support noon games.
Yeah.
That'd be. I used to like the 24 hours of college basketball that ESPN did on the first day of the season. Like I would wake up I would wake up and at like 6:30 a.m. it was like Lehigh and Harvard in front of like 12 people. I always thought that was cool.
Oh,
I forgot they did that.
it's unlocked a memory.
Yeah, they shouldn't have stopped.
Well, they brought back the play in the game outside with Gonzaga and Michigan State.
Right, and Michigan State was like shooting directly into the sons of hell in the first half and could not see.
I love that. Like I remember. Well, was it North Carolina and Michigan State or something that happened?
Because they did one on an aircraft carrier, and like they somehow hadn't anticipated that the floor would get wet.
Right. Yeah.
It was like so guys were like, "Yo, I'm gonna die out here."
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That's what I thought, and I don't know what they played on. I didn't. Admittedly, I haven't gotten into basketball mode yet. I haven't. It's still football season. Chiefs are still playing really well, so that's hard for me to switch gears to watch basketball. The only time I watch basketball is when it's like 9 p.m. and the Warriors are playing, and I have a parlay on Steph Curry hitting threes, and then that's the only time that I watch basketball.
It's always like bragging rights for me. It's like college basketball starts at bragging rights.
That's fair. I think
I've always thought this season should be shorter. Like they shouldn't be playing yet. They should start on just start New Year's Day.
Yeah, October through March is a long time. The championship's in April sometimes too, right? Or I mean, typically
almost always first weekend in April. Yeah,
I mean that's October to April is a long time.
Yeah,
I think this year it ran up against like opening day for baseball. So you're talking about starting.
That's what it always was. Like opening day is Monday, and then that night would be the national title game. Yeah,
wild.
Because then the next day is always like the worst day in sports because baseball never played and college basketball was over, and it was just like nothing happened, and everyone was sad.
Well, there's still a lot to look forward to for this Missouri basketball team. I know that people really do care about who is on the floor at this moment and who is not.
Isaiah Mosley played last night, so that's good news. He's allowed to play, and he's going to play going forward.
Yeah, Gabe, tell us what you know.
I know that he did not play on whatever the other night was, and he did play last night.
It's all that matters.
I expect that he will play going forward. But like that's a coach doesn't have to tell us everything. He's the coach. He doesn't have to tell us why if he doesn't want to tell us.
Very true.
And maybe he did. Who knows? Maybe he told us the truth. Maybe he didn't. I don't really care. As long as we don't see Isaiah's name pop up in the police blotter, which we haven't seen, then whatever. He doesn't have to tell us why he didn't play. I did kind of laugh though on Friday night. Because we had to ask, and I said, was Isaiah available? What's going on? And he said, yeah, he just didn't play. Got a DNP. Mabor Majak got a DNP. Jackson Francois got a DNP, and I literally almost started laughing because, like, no disrespect to those guys, but like, it's not quite the same thing,
right? I think I saw a quote that he was like, he was on the end of the bench cheering with all the rest of the guys, or something like that. That's what he said. Good observation, coach. Thank you. But
it is wild though how fans they get so upset that they don't know all the information. It's wild. I mean,
I like to not know. Like,
obviously you want him to play, but there's a reason he's not playing. It's just kind of like, it's game 3. Chill out.
Right.
Well, and these are college kids. Like we don't, and look, I'm being honest. I have no idea why he didn't play. And I haven't looked into it. But sometimes even if you do know, like, it's okay to not air a kid's dirty laundry. If it turns into a deal of public record, but like, I don't know. I'm sure Dennis had a reason. I'm sure he didn't just wake up that day and go, yeah, I'm not going to play you today. I don't like you today. You're not going to play in the game tonight.
Don't know if Isaiah's a part of our plans for this game tonight. Yeah, I hope that he would not just wake up and say that.
Load management.
It's
he played last game.
Yeah, it would be vibes to Xavier Pinson going at it with Konzo in the NCAA tournament. That game was one of the strangest terms of, you could say, quote unquote, load management in that game as well. It's so weird to how that all ended. Is he still at LSU, by the way?
No, he's at he is actually at New Mexico State.
Yeah, he's at
no way. He's going to be on the football team.
Dejuan Gordon are at New Mexico State. Whatever day Missouri played their season opener, X was cleared by the NCAA that he would be eligible to play this year for New Mexico State.
Isn't isn't Mario McKinney at New Mexico?
He used to be at New Mexico State and is now at UTEP.
Oh yeah, UTEP. That's right.
I mean, you could do those maps or like the things they put up in the crime documentaries tracking everything. You could do that with former Missouri basketball players, just where they all are. Boogie Coleman is back at Ball State, which I like.
No. Yeah. No, that's in the transfer portal. I think it's for the better as a whole. It's probably a larger conversation than we have left in this podcast, but I think it's for the better as a whole. But it makes for some wild tracks to how people get to where they are.
I mean, like the best one was Mark Smith. He played for Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas State. It's awesome.
Shout out Mark Smith, man. Hope he's doing well.
He played great for K-State for a while, didn't he?
Yeah. He did.
K-State fans were pretty excited about him while he was
down. Listen, Mizzou got the worst end of that trade. I'll be honest. When you talk about trading the two players, Mizzou got the raw end of the deal. Mark Smith did play well down the stretch. Now, Kansas State wasn't all that great last year, but he did play well for him in the final season of the Bruce Weber experience. People love, and down in Kansas State, they're loving Jerome Tang right now. Like Jerome Tang. People might love Jerome Tang more than Missouri fans love Dennis Gates.
Hadn't lost a game, right?
Nope, they're still undefeated.
That's, again, him and Dennis, most popular they're ever going to be in their lives. Enjoy it.
Yes, very much so. But we'll get some more basketball talk probably next week or a couple weeks after when we're looking at the schedule. There's probably going to be a few more weeks before we fully dive into the basketball talk and take it kind of seriously. But shout out to our friends at Charlie Hustle. I have been wearing the KC Sports Network hoodie since I got it. I have not taken it off because it's comfortable. And I recommend, if you're going to order a hoodie from Charlie Hustle just in general, to get a size up on the hoodie, because can't beat a baggy hoodie. And they fit kind of weird.
Also, Thanksgiving coming up, like you need a little extra room in your clothes.
You're gonna need it, and you're gonna thank me later once you order a size up on the hoodies, because
shirts are pretty true to size, though.
Shirts are.
Nice. I saw Lawrence Bowers wearing this shirt, and I knew I had to buy it. So I shout out Lawrence Bowers. The only reason I bought the shirt. Shout out
Lawrence Bowers, indeed. Great guy. He was on the Border War podcast with Jarrett Sutton last year when they were talking. I think it was just after Konzo was fired there. He was on the podcast. But the Border War podcast will be back this week if you want a more in-depth basketball conversation. Jarrett Sutton knows basketball pretty well.
It is hard to get more in-depth than what we've done for the last 12 minutes, guys. I challenge anyone to go more in-depth than tracking down Mario McKinney. And
it's a great point.
I feel like we need to have like a Charlie Hustle like coupon code, and we just like throw it into like random conversations so that you have to listen to the whole podcast. Ooh. But it would be like in this point where we're talking about nothing and we're like, by the way, here's the new code.
It's like a password.
Charlie Hustle will talk to you about it.
I like that.
Like password. Like you have to tweet us or DM us the secret code so we know that you listened all the way to the end and listened to our nonsense. It's good. But Jarrett Sutton, Jeff Hawkins, Border War podcast. Jeff obviously played for Kansas. Jarrett, you guys know, played for Mizzou. They talk about Missouri basketball. Both guys, very good basketball minds, obviously. Jarrett's a scout in the NBA, so he's in his spare time talking some Mizzou hoops on this here same audio channel, same YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out. Good stuff there if you really like the hoops talk. Jarrett, shout out to Jarrett on the call of the game. What was that? That was the Missouri's season opener. He did a really good job on ESPN or SEC Network Plus, whatever they're calling it. But he did a good job on that. Make sure to listen to that podcast here on the channel. We will be back next week with another podcast, hopefully recapping a Missouri win. And I'm going to be talking about what all bowl games that we could be going to and watching this Missouri Tigers team.
It's not going to change between this week and next week. It's going to be exactly the same next Monday as it is this Monday.
You'll be surprised. Everyone will be surprised with the bowl predictions that I can come up with. But nevertheless, thank you guys for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. We appreciate you. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe. Follow us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, and tell a friend about the Mizzou That's Who podcast. We do appreciate you guys listening. So until next week, we will talk to you later.